On today's episode, Courtney and I have the pleasure of sitting down with Brittany Freeman, agency owner, and we're going to talk about how her agency over the last 12 to 18 months has went from averaging 75 to 90 policies a month to now consistently hitting 140 to 150 policies a month with similar team. But she's going to break down exactly what she's changed and the results that she's seen from training, from team meetings, to marketing, to accountability, and everything in between. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Brittany Freeman. Brittany, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We are amped. So good. I'm so excited to talk. I'm so excited to have you on today because you have had tremendous strides over the last really 24 months, but over the last year, your production has almost doubled, 70 to 90 policies a month to now 150. And so I'm excited to dive into that, what you're doing from marketing, what you've seen change in your business. I'm super pumped about today.
Yeah, I want to start there. To go from 70 to 90 policies a month to jump up to 150. Let's talk about what was happening at the 70 to 90 policies a month first. Let's start there, and then we'll move on to what shifted to double that.
Well, I've always been a believer in Weaver Sales Academy, and I've used that for my staff to onboard them. Plug for you guys there. But no, seriously, I believed in that, but I was not very good at the consistent training piece after I got them onboarded. So it's like 8 weeks of intense training, and we're super excited and like, hey, now go sell policies. And I kind of released them to the wild at that point and allowed them to start selling. But the piece that I feel like I was missing, that 6 to 8 months ago was staying consistent on having them continue to invest in their professional development individually. I was good at the team meeting stuff. I was good at the company corporate training stuff. But as far as allowing them to invest in their own professional development through consistent training online, or even we started reading books together, even through reading books and helping them learn more about the industry, I wasn't great at that piece. We made a switch. We made that more consistent and have held them a lot more accountable to their own personal training outside of that onboarding.
So I'd be curious, when you implemented the consistent training, did you receive any pushback from your team? Did you struggle with that consistency piece? Like, what have you done to make sure that it gets done and you hold yourself and your team accountable to that consistent training?
Yeah. So before, I used to be kind of like, hey, make sure you hop on and listen to so-and-so video, or make sure you listen to the last podcast on this channel. And I would send it to them and I would ask them to do it. After asking them, I would never follow up and be like, hey, so what'd you get out of it? And I would never make sure they did it. So it was just like, I would send it to them and then it would go into oblivion. Whereas now, we've actually shifted our office schedule on Tuesdays. Our team all takes lunch at the same time. We close our doors. I have for 4 years, 1 hour every single day. Different than some operations. I know that, but it works really well for us. But on Tuesdays, the sales team now takes lunch first so that they can come back and attend live in-person trainings with your guys' training platform because, hey, watch this when you can, wasn't getting me results. Why? Because they weren't watching it. Like, let's be honest. Mom tells you to go clean your room. Mom leaves the house. You go clean your room? No, you don't. So I'm like, no, Tuesdays, you go take lunch, you come back, we sit and watch this. And then for me, the accountability piece is walking up to them and into their office space after that live training. I know when it ends. What'd you guys get? What'd you take away? Real quick. And that was another hurdle for me to overcome. I hate those 10 to 15 minute meetings because, as you can tell, I like to talk and it's not good for me. So 15 turns into 45. But I've gotten better at just going in, give me 3 things. What'd you take away from that training? How was it? And then we move forward with our day.
That's powerful.
So is there any other training time? Is there any other group time that you guys are talking about personal development, the books that you're reading? Aside from that Tuesday, that training Tuesday time, is there any other time that you have that scheduled out?
Yeah, every other Friday, my sales team and I are reading a book together. So every other Friday, we sit down and I have notes from my reading of it to ask them about. That's about a half an hour meeting. And then every other Thursday alternates. So one Thursday a week is a team meeting. And the other Thursday, we actually are using another training program, Future Legacy Partners, which is a little more about the balance of work-life balance and discovering yourself and your own personality and your team as well. So that's every other Thursday alternating from our team meetings.
Very cool. So just out of curiosity, what's been like one or two of your favorite team reads? I'm always looking for books to recommend.
Well, we're currently reading the Don't Make It Weird book that was recommended by you guys from Colleen. So that's been a lot
Let's
of fun.
go.
Yeah. And let me just say, our team reading that and realizing like the stuff that Colleen shares that people are selling, I'm like, y'all, if they can sell that stuff on the internet, you can sell insurance. Like, come on. Don't give me any excuses.
I know. You think that insurance is the weirdest thing to sell on the internet until you start following No Shame Sales Game and you're like, wait a minute, why am I not talking about life insurance all day long? Like,
Yeah.
this is, it completely changes the game. I love that you're a part of it too, that you're a part of the
Absolutely.
book club. Whenever we're coaching, if we assign a book, we read it too. So it's built-in accountability from us as the coaches and the leaders to join right along in on it.
I think that it's like anything in a business. If you, the leader, are bought into it, the team will be bought into it. Whereas if you're not bought into it, I truly believe that your team won't be bought into it. That's with everything. So it doesn't matter if it's reading a book. It doesn't matter if it's training. It doesn't matter if it's going out in the community. Like, you have to first lead by example. I'm not saying you have to do it your entire career, but you have to lead by example or else it's never going to get done. And we've witnessed that firsthand with agents that train. Like, they sign up and then they never hold their team accountable to it. Just like you were saying, Brittany, you do this, do that. They never do it. And it's like, if you would do it with them just for a little bit, just for a few weeks and set the standard, you automatically are going to see increased results and you're going to see your team buy in.
I'm curious. Well, all of this sounds like fun, and I'm always down on that. But I'm curious about your lunch break. So you take and you lock the door every single day for an hour for your team to have lunch?
Hell yes.
Yes, ma'am. Every week. Since the day I opened, day one, 4 years ago, I set that standard because I was a team member for 8 years. And this job can exhaust you, not just because of the people, not just because of the type of work, but because of the desire to want to make more money. Who wants to turn off as a moneymaker? You don't, right? You're in it. The phone's ringing. You're writing business. The policies are going up. No one wants to walk away from the phone when there's more money on the other line, right? But then how long do you retain your staff? How long do they really stick around? Do they love their job? Do they enjoy clocking in every morning? Because if they don't, they're going to make a lot of money. They're going to do well for you for a little bit of time. And then they're going to go, you know what? I'm going to take a double the pay raise and cost a lot less on my mind stress. And I'm going to leave and go do something else because this, I'm tired. And on top of customer retention, I want strong employee retention because as much as I love training, I also love having a really great foundation for my office staff and for my community, right? Like, we're in a smaller town. People like familiar faces. I don't want high turnover. So that lunch break was something I implemented from day one. And just to share with you guys, like, sometimes we're together for that 1 hour. Sometimes we all got different things to do, whether that's grocery store, pharmacy pickup, run to a kid's school for something, read a book. I bought Brain Tap, which is like a meditation device, headphones, lights, noise, all this cool stuff. They can sit and do that during their lunch break. Like, I don't care what you do during your hour because it's not my hour, it's yours.
I love that so much.
It's fantastic. I love it. I'm half tempted to ship it to you and be like, here, use it for a week and send it back. Tell me how you like it.
I'm going to do it for sure.
And I love that you're doing that, Brittany, because I'll tell you, like, early on, I struggled with that. Like, I was like, no breaks. We work through our lunch. We answer the phone. We're always available to customers. And that was just how I had also been taught from some mentors of mine that I'd learned in the business. And later on in our career, we actually started doing what you did. And I did see a shift that's what, like, the team almost looked forward to that break every single day. Like that 1 hour of just either team time, individual time. Yeah. Shit, at the end of the day, like, no more answering phones for an hour. Thank God the phone's not ringing. We're not talking to customers. So it was like a break that would like re-energize them. And although like, truthfully, that's not how I was necessarily motivated. Like, sometimes a break would actually cause my energy levels to drop a little bit, but the team, like, as far as, like, watching the team, that would actually energize them, and so kudos to you for doing that, 'cause the more I got into it and towards the latter of my career, I was like, "Oh, wow, they're like, this is great for them." Like, we actually we encourage that throughout our team's days now. Like, go out, take your lunch, take 15-minute breaks, get outside, go walk, just because that's gonna energize them and make them look more forward to what they're doing every day.
Yeah. And I don't wanna make it seem like it's perfect and everyone has rainbows and butterflies during lunchtime. Don't get me wrong. Staff get stuck on the phone sometimes. Sometimes they work through their lunch break if they feel like they're behind. I also give my team pretty good flexibility when it comes to their schedule. So like if they need off at 3 o'clock and they want to work through their lunch, like I'll negotiate things like that with them. But knowing that they have that hour if they need it, especially because 2 of my 4 full-time staff are parents. And so, if they need to run an errand or go do grocery pickup or heck, spend 1 hour alone that they don't get to spend outside of the office ever alone, like we love that space and it's worked out really well. And yes, when I took over, customers had questions, but now 4 years later, they know. The customers know that's when we're closed is for lunch. And when we onboard new customers, we tell them we are always available for you, except from 12:30 to 1:30. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
But I think that's normal. Every other job in America gets a lunch break, but not insurance, baby. No lunch for you. Don't eat. You gotta work through it. You just gotta work all the time. All right.
Talking about food, now I'm hungry. I want to go back to dialing for dollars here. We were talking about production. We're talking about how it's hard to turn off a money-making machine. Was there anything else aside from the coaching in the moment, the Tuesday accountability training, every other Friday book club, and then every other Thursday we're doing another training? Is there anything else that you can really pinpoint and say, the minute I implemented this, or the minute I started coaching like this, or expectations, team meetings, anything else that you're like, ooh, this was the disconnect that once I implemented this, it really shifted?
End of the year last year, so November, we were real close to hitting our annual marks that we were striving for. And I don't like to not win. And so we worked really, really hard in December. And I also discovered that I needed to be a little more bossy. And I say that with grace and kindness in my heart. I am their boss. I am their leader. I am there to correct them, course correct, coach, and whatever. And I'm also there to be upset when we don't hit the mark. And in November, I realized that I wasn't really holding them accountable to not hitting the mark. I was celebrating when we hit the marks, but when we weren't, I was like, oh, well, there's next month. Well, in December, there isn't next month. Like, you got to get it done. And I took on a different mentality in December and held them a little more accountable to those daily conversations, the daily goals, and really being like, hey, if we don't do this now, there's 28 days, there's 26 days, there's 25 days. You want to work on Christmas Eve? I don't want to work on Christmas Eve. Like just that mental switch that I could seem to turn on in December, but I wasn't good at doing it the other 11 months of the year. And I've ended up the last 2 years sacrificing time in November and December for my family to hit annual goals. And it's like, man, if you were that bossy in January, we might not be doing this in December. And so during our team planning meeting that we had, I basically flat out told them, like, I'm gonna be a little bossier in January. And thankfully, they've taken well to that. We're all celebrating successes. Commission checks are higher. Production is up. Like, no one's mad about what's happening because of being held more accountable. But yeah, I think it was a mind shift for me too, that like, hey, you gotta celebrate the successes just as high, and you gotta be able to hold them to those expectations just as accountable when they're not hitting that mark. It can't just be, well, we'll do it next month. And so I think that was the other major change.
Okay, so let's clarify what bossy means. All right, let's get into this accountability, because it could be super in depth, or it could be just like, I just changed these few little things. So when you say that you're holding your team more accountable, you're being a little bit more bossy. Like, what?
I'm going to change that to leadership qualities.
That's right.
Every little girl who was told she was bossy grew
Amen.
up to become a leader. So yeah,
Amen.
we're gonna switch that vernacular.
But what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you share it with us?
Yeah. So we use another program, and I know there's a lot of different ones out there, but we use what's called Connect Bonus System. And if our staff is not selling across all lines, they aren't making their full compensation. And there's one way to go about that, which is, hey, here's your commission check. Great job. You made $1,000. You move forward, the next month comes around. The other way, that which I've now really implemented, is I sit down with them and I go, do you realize that you lost out on $800 because you didn't sell one more life policy? Or you missed out on $800 because you didn't sell five more auto policies? You couldn't find two more houses to close to not lose $800? Like, I'm now focusing on, what did you miss and how did you miss that mark and how did it affect you? Because when that staff member gets that $1,000 bonus in their check, they're already like, woo, $1,000, yay. But like, what if it would have been 1,800? What if it would have been 2,200? Does that feel different? And then I'm showing them, if you're losing that for 12 months, do you realize what the income level of your household differentiates between making that full commission check versus just settling for 1,000? So I've taken a different approach to using Connect, and not just saying, check mark, here's your paycheck, good job, but now going, do you realize what you missed? And how do we make sure you don't miss that? Because I want to pay it to you. I want to pay that out. That's your money. But I need you to hit these metrics so that I can give you that whole check that you've earned.
I think the big thing there, and I'm hearing you talk about it through this whole episode, is that you are having them look at opportunities. So it's not just celebrating the wins, but also saying, okay, so this is what we did really well, but there is a whole level of opportunity that we're not hearing or that we're not hitting. And you're also explaining how they get paid. There are so many producers that aren't hitting targets because they don't understand their commission plan. They don't understand the effect of one more household, how that changes. So kudos to you for breaking it down, not just monthly, but when you look at, and this is even for a customer, when you deliver how much money I'm going to save you, you don't say, I'm going to save you $30 a month. You're going to save them $360 a year. Because when you see it like that,
look at you, big picture close. Let's go.
I'm big picture closing right now. But it's the same thing, because as human beings, we're going to go, oh yeah, that's $30, $360 a year. That adds up in your mind. That's a different game.
And I love how you're being an advocate for your team.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And really all you're like the guiding light. You're like, hey, you're doing a great job, but you missed this by 2 households and it would have been an extra $800. Like, to take the approach that way, I love that, because you're basically presenting yourself as, I have your back. Yes, there's goals to be met, but by you not hitting these goals, you left this on the table from a personal standpoint. And everybody always wants to know what's in it for me. Like, at the end of the day, we all have that selfish piece in us. It's like, well, what's in it for me? Well, you just missed $800. That's $9,600 a year just by writing 2 additional households a month. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it from a team standpoint, they're so, I don't like to use the word busy, but like day-to-day operations of calls, quotes, incoming calls, servicing customers, that they're not going to always think to look at the commission plan to see, how is this affecting us? So the fact that you're taking the initiative to bring that up, man, that is powerful. And I would assume that your team's really bought into that, your leadership, your guidance as well.
Yeah. And then the other thing I didn't mention earlier, when you guys asked about like accountability piece, I meet with each of my staff once a month for 1 hour. I do it mid-month. It's just me and the employee. And it's meant for 2 things. The first thing is we go through their metrics. So I look at our internal customer platform. I look at their numbers. I look at their activity. Is their activity leading to activity? And we go through a checklist that I use with them. We then look at how they did last month, what they did well, and what they wish they would have done better. And as I mentioned, we do it mid-month. So now they've got the last 15 days. Again, if you're behind, if you're missing a couple households, if you need to quote more, we get that kind of drilled in during that hour. The other half hour of that is for them and I to just sit and talk. How are you? How's your life? What's going on? Because as agents, and we don't realize this sometimes, we appear to be so busy that we don't have the time to listen to them as a person. So unless they're coming to you with a question about insurance, you appear too busy. And again, I was a team member for 8 years. So I've been on both sides of this fence. I know what this looks like. And I've tried to make sure that the things that I wished I would have had better, I do better for the next generation of staff, right? It comes back to parenting too. Like as a mom, I'm trying to parent better than my parents parented. Like they did a good job, but I want to do better. And I want to be an agent just a little bit better, right? And so I sit down with them during that second half hour and it's just, how are you? How is your dog? How is your life? How is your house? I know you were building a deck on your patio, like what's going on? And I'm listening to what's going on in their life, which selfishly turns into what can I help you buy by making the right amount of commission to achieve the lifestyle you want, right? We can't know what they're trying to achieve and strive for if we're not listening about their life. So that hour is another thing that I do with them on a consistent basis on the calendar, carved out for them and I to break down what's going on in their space.
When you're working professionally and you're building something that's in line with your personal goals, and you both know like, hey, I want to buy a house, or hey, I want to get out of debt, or hey, I want to do this, then you're laser focused. And I think focus in the insurance game is where you really maximize. But let's talk about marketing, because you haven't done an internet lead since 2021.
Woo woo.
I know. Oh, baby. All right. So what are you doing instead? Where are the leads coming from? How are we keeping the sales team busy?
So a couple things. Comes back to accountability. So if you're not putting food in front of your staff, so if you're not giving them internet leads, they got to go out and be hunters and gatherers. So my team knows that they have to go be hunters and gatherers. They have to ask for referrals. They have to attend community events with me. They have to go to networking meetings and all of those things on a consistent basis. You cannot go to one networking meeting, come back and go, all right, where are the leads? Who's going to call me? Like you got to go and you got to show up and be consistent. And that's not you, the agent. That can be you, your staff. That can be you, your agency. Because look, I get it. I don't want to go sit through a networking meeting 5 times a week. I just don't. And all of them I don't love. But maybe my staff loves going to that meeting. Because back to what we talked about a minute ago, the phone's not ringing in their ear if they're out of the office at a networking meeting, right? No one's yelling at them about bill pay if they're at a networking meeting, right? So getting them to go to those things on behalf of my agency to help cultivate leads is one. Another one is going to be, they have to do it. Like they have to have it to eat, right? They have to have it to put money on their table. They have to ask for the referral because I'm not feeding them anything else. And it's part of their goals each month to ask for a certain number of referrals. So it affects their compensation as well. And yes, I trust my team. There's no way that I track those asks. I just trust them because they're my people. But then the other piece is consistent online marketing. So outside of my insurance agency, I launched back in September a business called Created Marketing, and it is helping both my agency as well as other small businesses stay consistent with their online brand. And that's been a huge game changer, I believe, in all of our production because it's continuing to build the name of our business in our community, but in the sense of an online space, which is also really cool because it's expanding our market, right? Outside of our tiny town, and it's reaching a lot more people through that digital space.
I mean, you know our feelings on this. You have to have a social media presence, and you are crushing it. You're crushing it with your agency. You're crushing it with your company, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I believe that when you, and you can tell me what you've experienced, but since you've got away from internet leads, I would assume your team is working better leads. I would assume that your team's more active on social media. So are they also duplicating what you do on social media? Like, what does that look like from a marketing standpoint that they're doing?
Yeah. So it's a little different for each of my staff. Out of my 4 full-time team members, I have one that will not use social media at all. That's fine. Don't make people uncomfortable, right? That's like, there's boundaries. That's all right. The next one, my customer service team member, she's not real big salesy. It's not really in her personality, but she's all for sharing any of the content that I put out there. And sometimes I'll come into the office and be like, hey, will you share that post I put out this morning? I really think it would get some traction. It's already gotten some traction on my page, and she'll go and share it on her social media. My other 2 team members who are in sales, along the guidelines of compliance, will do one of 2 things. One will be share stuff off of my page, or they will just strictly talk about insurance, talk about life insurance, talk about car insurance, talk about business insurance. But I've also taught my team, again, to be a hunter, and that anything you see on social media, the baby that was born, the house that was purchased, the engagement ring, the job change. Those are the people you've got to be reaching out to and not being afraid to make it weird. Just be like, hey, you got a new rock. Is there insurance on it? Like, we want to make sure that if the diamond falls out in the sand while you're on your honeymoon, that puppy is covered. And my staff is now doing a good job of paying attention to that stuff on social media to cultivate more leads. Costs me no money, right? It's not an internet lead, but that we're able to generate new business in our office. And those life events range from such a wide spectrum of things. I mean, even the person who retires, right? Okay, where's your savings going? Where's your 401k? You paid off your house. Sweet. $800, $900, $1,200, $1,500 a month that you're not spending on anything anymore. Where are we putting it? And those are the ways that I'm teaching my staff to utilize social media on top of everything that I'm posting consistently to then cultivate conversations which turn into leads, which turn into sales.
Powerful. You got a machine rolling over there, Brittany. So I would love to know if you could tell us just a little bit about how you're currently helping agents and other business owners with your company as far as that social media branding. Like, how you're helping them, and if somebody wanted to get started, like they don't know that's the one thing we always hear. Like, I want a social media presence, but I really just don't know where to start. So what advice would you give someone?
Yeah. In regards to the starting point, and Courtney, I'll give you some credit for this because you pushed me out of my boundaries a couple of years ago when we met in North Carolina. I had never done a reel ever in my life. I didn't have an Instagram before I became an agent, right? Oh my gosh, a millennial who didn't have an Instagram. Shocking. So I was like, I'm not doing reels. That's so silly. Courtney's like, no, you're going to go do reels and you're badass. Go do it. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I did. And I jumped in, and I share that because if I hadn't jumped in and I hadn't got uncomfortable and I hadn't made that first reel, it wouldn't have snowballed into the success that our social media platforms have had, and in turn resulted in the marketing business that I've launched. And so the reason I had never done it is because I was uncomfortable. It was just new. And so for small business owners and agents that don't have that social media presence, I don't care if you're 25 or 75, it does not matter. If we can just get you active to start posting and start engaging, that is the first step. And with Created Marketing, the marketing business that I run outside of my agency, that's what we help you do, is start building that consistency of posting. And listen, maybe you don't want to do a reel. That's okay. Let us help you start getting posted and getting some consistent content out 2 to 3 times a week on your social media pages. Also, making you feel like a real human being in the internet space for your customers. So I encourage you to take pictures of the inside of your office, the front of your office, your staff eating lunch together. I want to feel what it's like to be in your agency as a consumer without opening that front door. And so we help agents and small businesses do that through consistent social media posting. And we have 2 parts of our program. One is we'll post all of it for you. Hand me the keys, I'll take care of all of it. The other option is that we send you templates every month and you can actually build them out, change the colors, add the photos, get creative if you have someone in your office that wants to do that. And then you can post the content on your own for your small business.
Hell yeah. Okay, I have to share this too, because anytime you're getting ready to start something new, especially on the internet, to put yourself out there, you always feel cringy. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to climb Cringe Mountain. I'm here to tell you that Cringe Mountain is built on dollars. So keep climbing, keep feeling cringy, because when you reach the top, you'll be like, look at all the money I made, because you'll have so much confidence. You'll be like, if I can do this, what else can I do? So just put yourself out there. I'm so glad that you took it and you ran with it, and that it is what it is right now, and that you're helping others do the exact same thing. So that's awesome.
And Courtney, to your point, it's not just for me. It's not just about making the money. It's about saving the money. I talk to agents all the time that are just throwing dollars away into internet leads, and it blows my mind. And not that internet leads are bad. I pay for SEO. We do Google ad spend. Like, there is an area where I invest in that space, but it's not George Washington at 123 State Street that got a quote online. Like, I just have such a hard time with that because sorry.
We're laughing because we all know. We're like, I know, I've seen that lead come in.
Oh,
it's $50. I saw him come in. Live transfer. Here we go.
But like, It's not that I'm also not wasting money on that, and your staff as well. One of the first things, as many of you know, and I know you guys know this, my husband runs my agency with me, so he works full time at the office as well. And he was in a sales role when he first started with me, and he's like, Britt, all these touches are not doable. And he like brings me an Excel spreadsheet, and he's like, how, if this snowballs into this snowball into this, I cannot make 187 phone calls a day. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Thank you for the Excel spreadsheet. Point taken. But then I'm like, you know what? If he feels this way, and trust me, he's invested, right? This is our business. How does someone who's a staff member feel that's looking at this and going, that's cute, hangs up the phone. I'm not going to finish my day. I can't finish my day. There's 3 hours and I got 200 phone calls to make still. Nope, not getting to them. And then everything gets backlogged, right? So are your staff actually working the internet leads that you're buying in the correct fashion that you think they are? And if you don't know that answer is for sure 100%, then in my opinion, you're wasting money somewhere. And so for me, that investment in feeling cringy is better than the loss of dollars on internet leads for George Washington. Like I just can't. So I know for a lot of agents, they spend money on that and there are great results. But for our agency in our town, it just was not a route that I wanted to go. And I'm very thankful. I have to give credit to my team for believing that they can cultivate their own leads as well, because they could look at me every day and go, well, this agency, they just leads fall in their lap and people call them. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that? Because of cancellation ratios. That's why we're not doing that. Like,
yeah.
And I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. You led from the front. You're posting. You're out in the community. You're leading because you believe in it, and that belief went onto your team. So
Absolutely.
kudos to you. So Brittany, if somebody wanted to connect with you, follow you, work with you, support you, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Yeah, we'll go with the insurance agency first. So Be Free INS, Be Free INS. That's the letter B, the word free, INS. That's my State Farm agency. If you just want to kind of peek in and see what's going on our social media to help you get creative, that's the space to do that in. And then Created_Marketing is our marketing agency on Instagram. Created _marketing is where you'll find us on Instagram for the marketing agency. And through that, you can find our link tree, which allows you to book a live call with me. We can discuss one-on-one what you're looking for. Most recently, we've also been helping agents with their business cards. I know sometimes what's provided by your corporate company isn't super pretty. So we've been also helping agencies in that space create some of their own marketing and branding items for their office. And you can do all that through the link tree on our Instagram.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, Brittany. Thank you so much for today. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been so good to catch up with you guys.
I know.
Absolutely. Golden nugget after golden nugget today. So thank you, Brittany, for your time and for all of those. Appreciate you. I would love to know, because I've got a page full of notes. So I would love to know what you took away from today, what you're going to implement, what you're going to run with. Shoot us a text, 816-727-7610. Other than that, as always, we love your support, and we understand that time is the most valuable asset that we all have, and we appreciate you spending it with us today. Go out and make it great.